Welcome back to the Motivated Mind Zone. Glad to have you here.
Great to be back.
So, today we're diving deep into something that, well, it sounds kind of wrong, doesn't it? Almost like bad advice, especially if you're that person who's always trying to be productive, squeezing every last drop out of the day.
Right, the high achiever, the busy professional. We're challenging a really core belief today.
Exactly. The idea that you have to grind, that intense hard work is the only way to really master something complex like English.
And we're flipping that. The premise we're unpacking is,
Mm-hmm.
what if being, let's say, smart lazy is actually the fastest, most efficient way to get fluent in English?
It sounds completely backwards, but think about it. How many people feel guilty or like a failure when those traditional methods just fizzle out? You know, the heavy grammar books, memorizing huge lists of words.
Oh, absolutely. It's a classic scenario. People try, they really do. But these methods, they're almost designed for failure if you're not a full-time student. You feel like you're the problem, not disciplined enough, maybe just not smart enough, especially after a long day at work.
Yeah, and that's exactly who we're talking to today. You listening right now, you're smart. You get why English is important. You have the desire, but maybe not the energy, right? Not the mental space for that old school, intense study grind.
And that's okay. We're saying that low energy isn't a character flaw. It's
Huh.
it's like an engineering problem. How do you get the result you want within that constraint?
So our mission today is to really explore this system, this way of thinking, designed for what the source calls the smart, lazy person.
hmm We've looked at the material and we've pulled out three really specific low-effort rules that basically change the game. They shift learning from this, like, dreaded chore.
Yeah, something you avoid.
Exactly, into something that naturally fits into your life. Easy, almost effortless. Maximum results, minimum sustainable effort. That's the goal.
Okay, I love the sound of that. Let's get concrete. The source material uses a great story to illustrate this. Let's talk about Kenji.
Keiji is perfect.
Mm.
He's the before picture for so many people. He's a professional guy in Japan, had this big dream. He wanted to travel the world, connect with people everywhere, have real conversations without language getting in the way. A really common, powerful goal.
Sounds familiar. So, how did he first try to tackle it? The logical way, I assume.
Oh, completely. He did exactly what everyone thinks you're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
Fell right into that traditional intensive learning trap.
Which means,
Well, he described it himself. It sounds exhausting just hearing about it.
yeah.
He went out and bought many books, big books. You know, the type thick, heavy, crammed with complex grammar rules, things that look intimidating before you even open page one.
Ugh, yeah. Grammar tables, verb conjugations.
The whole 9 yards, and then vocabulary lists. He got really serious about memorizing long lists of just random words. The source specifically mentions things like apple, book, car, desk, elephant, just isolated nouns.
It feels like you have to do that, though, doesn't it? Like, how can you speak if you don't know the words for things? There's this huge pressure.
There is. Yeah. But it creates this weird sense of inadequacy. Like you mentioned, you feel stupid because you don't know the word for stapler or something, so you think you can't even try to speak yet.
Right. So he had the books, the lists.
Right.
What about the time commitment?
And this is the killer part, especially for someone working full-time. He tried to force himself to study for an hour, maybe even more, every single night, right after getting home from a long, mentally draining day at the office.
Oof. Yeah, I can see where this is going. Your brain's already fried at that point.
Completely. And the outcome was, well, predictable
Mm-hmm.
and, sadly, very common. The source says after just 1 week of this intense regime, he was totally burned out.
1 week. That's fast.
It is. And it wasn't just tiredness. The materials highlighted this kind of triple failure. One, the books were boring, just tedious. Two, the words he memorized, those lists, they didn't stick. He'd forget them almost immediately because there was no context.
Right, just floating words.
Exactly. And the third most damaging part, he started to feel really stupid. He felt like a failure. He internalized it, thinking, this is too hard for me, or maybe I really am too lazy, or maybe my memory is just bad.
That's the heartbreaking part. He blamed himself.
He did. And so he gave up, just stopped. That big dream of traveling and connecting felt impossibly far away, maybe not even achievable for him.
So let's really unpack this because it's critical. His failure wasn't about his lack of willpower, was it?
Not at all. And this is key for anyone listening who's felt that way. Kenji's burnout wasn't a personal failing. It was a system failure. The methodology itself, that intense, high-friction approach, is almost perfectly designed to make busy adults fail.
It's built for a different context.
Precisely. It works okay, maybe, for full-time students who have hours of free time and peak mental energy dedicated just to learning. But for someone juggling a job, maybe family, commuting, just life, demanding that kind of intense, focused study after a full day is setting them up for failure. It generates massive psychological friction.
So the problem wasn't Kenji wanting to rest, or what he called his laziness. The problem was the method fighting against his natural state, demanding peak effort when he only had low energy available.
You nailed it. The method was mismatched to the reality of his life. The source uses a great metaphor here. Kenji was trying to climb this huge mountain in one single day.
Yeah, you're guaranteed to collapse doing that.
Right. You'll be exhausted. You'll probably give up before you even get halfway. The smart approach, the one we're exploring, isn't about that heroic one-off push. It's about realizing the climb is made of tiny, consistent steps. Daily steps. Steps so small your brain barely even notices them as effort.
Okay, that makes sense. Making it sustainable. Which leads us perfectly into the big mindset shift, doesn't it? The core idea that changed everything for Kenji before he even got to the specific rules.
Yes, this is the foundation. You need this mental flip before the practical steps make sense. And it's simple, but really profound. Kenji had this realization: stop trying to learn English. Just start using English.
Okay, wait. That sounds way too simple. Maybe even a bit like denial. How can you get better if you're not actively, consciously learning? I mean, don't you need the structure, the grammar, the deliberate practice? I bet some listeners are thinking, yeah, right.
It's a totally fair skepticism, and it hinges on how we define those two words,
Yeah.
learning versus using. The difference is all about that psychological load, that friction we keep mentioning.
Okay, break that down. What's learning in this context?
Learning is positioned as high friction. It feels like hard work. It often feels like a chore, something you have to do. It's associated with studying for a test, pressure, the possibility of getting things wrong, feeling judged. It takes conscious, deliberate mental energy.
Right. The kind of energy you just don't have at 8 p.m. after a crazy day. Your brain actively pushes back against that feeling.
Precisely. Now contrast that with using. Using is framed as low friction. Using is ideally fun, easy, natural. It's like watching a movie you enjoy, or scrolling through social media, or listening to music. You're not studying the movie, you're just experiencing it.
Like how we use our native language every day.
Exactly. You don't sit down to learn your native language for an hour each night. You just live in it.
Hmm.
You absorb it. You use it. You get better at it naturally through constant low-stakes interaction. The goal is to shift English into that same category in your brain. Make it feel less like a textbook and more like just another way to interact with the world.
So the aim is to engineer your approach so that engaging with English feels easy, becomes automatic, almost like a background process, removing that mental wall that pops up when you think, ugh, I have to study now.
That's it, exactly. The smart, lazy person, or maybe we should say the smart, efficient person, needs methods that feel easy to start and easy to continue. Methods where failure isn't really an option because the bar for success each day is so incredibly low.
High leverage, low energy, like finding the easiest path up that mountain, the one with the gentlest slope.
Perfect analogy. It's about sustainability and efficiency, which, as Kenji discovered, beats short bursts of painful intensity every single time. And that brings us right to the practical application, his 3 rules. The pillars of this smart, lazy English mastery.
All right, let's get into the nuts and bolts. Rule number 1, the 5-minute rule. This sounds like the cornerstone, the habit builder.
It absolutely is, because it directly attacks the biggest barrier,
Right.
getting started, especially when you feel tired or overwhelmed. Kenji completely bitched the pressure of that 1-hour study block. That big commitment is what makes people procrastinate, right? Oh, I don't have a full hour now, I'll do it later, which becomes never.
We've all been there.
So he slashed it radically. His new commitment was do something in English for just 5 minutes a day.
5 minutes, seriously. That sounds, I mean, is that even enough to do anything meaningful? It feels almost negligible. Like, surely you need half an hour at least for your brain to even notice.
It sounds tiny, I know. But the genius isn't in the amount of learning packed into those 5 minutes. The genius is in the consistency it guarantees. 5 minutes has this incredible psychological advantage. It's so small, so easy that your brain, even your tired, lazy brain, cannot say no.
Ah, okay. It bypasses the resistance.
Totally. Think about it. The thought of studying for an hour after work, your brain screams, no way, too much effort. Procrastination kicks in. But 5 minutes? It's almost harder to argue against doing it. It's not scary, as the source puts it. Even the most exhausted person can usually find 5 minutes.
It's like you're tricking your brain into starting. It's habit formation 101, make the first step ridiculously easy, like James Clear's atomic habits idea.
Precisely. It's about building the habit of daily contact, not necessarily mastering complex grammar in that tiny window. The goal is to create an unbroken chain. Never miss a day.
Okay, so what did Kenji do in those 5 minutes? It can't be opening the grammar book, right? That would break the low friction rule.
Definitely not. The activities had to be easy, enjoyable, low pressure. The source gives some great examples showing the flexibility.
Like what? Give us specifics.
Okay, so one day, maybe he'd just watch a short, funny YouTube video in English, something he actually wanted to watch anyway. But he'd make sure to turn on the English subtitles, so it's entertainment, plus a little bit of reading and listening practice, almost incidentally.
Nice. Low effort, high engagement. What else?
Or say he was on his commute or doing chores, he might listen to just one English song. But the key was he'd also pull up the lyrics and read along.
Ah, connecting the sound to the word visually. Smart.
Yeah, it really helped solidify recognition. And then on days where he was truly exhausted, like running on empty, the bar got even lower, he'd just open an English news app on his phone and read one headline.
Just the headline.
Just the headline. Maybe the first sentence of the article if he felt like it. That's it. 5 minutes might literally just be reading one or two sentences.
Wow. Okay. So the purpose here isn't deep understanding or vocabulary mining. It's purely about contact.
It's about touching English every single day. That's the phrase used. You're just keeping the connection alive, reminding your brain daily that English is part of your environment. Even that tiny little ping reinforces the neural pathways. It prevents the forgetting curve from completely wiping out your progress.
So this rule is fundamentally about building the consistency muscle, making daily contact non-negotiable because it's just so easy.
Exactly. It solves the biggest problem. People quitting because the daily task feels too big. 5 minutes every day builds momentum and a powerful, frictionless habit. It's the engine driving the whole system.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense psychologically. Now let's move to the next layer, rule number 2, the one-sentence rule. This seems aimed squarely at the problem of those useless vocabulary lists.
It is. It's a direct and, frankly, much smarter alternative. We already touched on why vocab lists fail. They're boring, which kills motivation.
Maximum friction again.
Right. And the words are learned in isolation. You might know the word negotiate, but can you actually use it naturally in a sentence when you're, say, trying to discuss a contract? Probably not if you just memorized it from a list.
So what's the smart, lazy solution Kenji adopted?
Instead of memorizing lists of single words, he focused on learning one useful sentence each day. But useful is the critical part here. It had to be a sentence that was immediately practical, something he could actually use in a real conversation, especially in situations where he felt stuck.
So not just any sentence like the elephant is gray, more like conversational tool.
Exactly. Think of them as scaffolding. Sentences that help you manage the conversation, even if your overall English is still basic, they keep the interaction going.
Okay, this is interesting. The source highlighted a couple of these as being particularly powerful, calling them magic keys. What were they?
Yeah, these two are brilliant in their simplicity and effectiveness. The first one, probably the most important for any learner, is, could you speak a little slower, please?
Ah, yes. Okay, I can immediately see why that's gold. Every learner needs that.
It's a total game changer. Think about that common scenario. A native speaker starts talking really fast, maybe using slang you don't know. The typical learner panics, freezes up, maybe just nods and pretends to understand.
And the conversation dies right there. Or you get completely lost.
Precisely. But mastering this one sentence, it puts you back in control. It's polite, but it directly addresses the problem. It allows you to manage the pace of the conversation, to buy yourself that crucial extra processing time. It keeps the communication channel open instead of letting it shut down due to overwhelm. It's a conversational lifeline.
That's incredibly empowering. Okay, what was the second magic key sentence?
The second one is just as clever, maybe even more aligned with the smart, lazy philosophy. What do you call this in English?
Ooh, okay. How does that work? Why is that one so powerful?
Because it transforms every single interaction with the real world and with other people into a potential learning moment without you having to open a textbook.
Ah, I see. Instead of trying to pre-memorize the word for
You
everything.
just ask. You're in a kitchen with someone, you point to a whisk and you ask, what do you call this in English? Boom. You learn the word whisk in the exact context you'd use it. Or you're looking at a document at work, point to a section, what do you call this in English? Oh, that's the invoice number. You learn invoice right when you need it.
So you're basically outsourcing your vocabulary learning to the environment and the people around you, contextual learning on the fly.
Exactly. And learning a word in context linked to a real object or situation makes it stick in your memory far, far better than seeing it on a list between iguana and island. It's leveraging real life as your teacher. Minimum effort from you just asking the question.
That is smart. So let's zoom out. What's the long-term impact of learning just one useful sentence like this every day?
Think about the cumulative power. One sentence a day doesn't sound like much, but after 1 year, that's 365 useful, practical sentences you've mastered.
Okay, 365 sentences. How does that compare, practically speaking, to knowing, say, 3,000 random vocabulary words from lists?
The difference in functional ability is massive. Knowing 3,000 isolated words might help you on a multiple-choice test, maybe. But you'll likely struggle to build coherent sentences under pressure. With 365 carefully chosen, high-utility sentences, you can actually do things. You can initiate conversations, ask for directions, handle misunderstandings, manage the pace, ask for help. You can say a lot and handle many situations, as the source puts it.
You have functional communication tools.
Exactly. You have a practical toolkit for navigating real-world interactions, which is far more valuable for most people's goals than a huge theoretical vocabulary they can't deploy effectively. It's quality and utility over sheer unusable quantity.
This really is about minimum effective dose, isn't it? Finding the smallest input that yields the biggest practical result. Okay, that's rule 2. Let's get to the third one, the smartphone rule. This sounds like leveraging technology we already use constantly.
Precisely. This rule taps into something most of us have in our pockets or hands almost 204/7. It recognizes the smartphone as a massively underutilized language learning tool. Kenji turned his phone into essentially an unpaid English tutor that was always with him.
How? What was the specific action? It sounds almost too simple again.
It is simple, but it requires overcoming a little initial discomfort. He just changed the operating system language on his phone from
Mm.
Japanese to English.
Ah, okay. Setting the phone's main language to English. I've heard of people doing this. Was it confusing at first?
Oh, definitely. The source confirms that. Suddenly, familiar icons were paired with unfamiliar words. He didn't instantly know settings, compose, notifications, data usage, edit, save, all that everyday phone jargon.
Yeah, that could be frustrating if you just need to quickly change something.
It could. But here's the crucial difference compared to, say, learning those words from a list. He had to figure them out to use his phone effectively. He needed to check his messages. He needed to adjust the volume. He needed to connect to Wi-Fi. So he learned those words through necessity and repeated exposure.
So it wasn't abstract learning. It was learning driven by needing to accomplish a real-world task on the device.
Exactly. He learned what settings meant because he kept tapping on it to change his screen brightness or ringtone. He learned compose because he saw it every time he went to write an email or text. The phone forced him to learn through constant low-stakes repetition in a highly functional context.
And the lazy or effortless part is that this happens automatically in the background of his normal life, right?
That's the beauty of it. He didn't need to schedule phone vocabulary study time. Every single time he unlocked his phone, glanced at a notification, opened an app, navigated a menu dozens, maybe hundreds of times a day, he was passively bathing his brain in English. Surrounded by English, as the source says, with zero extra effort.
It's like creating a mini immersion environment right in your pocket.
It really is. The phone becomes this persistent, gentle teacher, constantly reinforcing common, useful words and phrases while he's just going about his day, scrolling Instagram or checking the weather. It perfectly complements the 5-minute rule by adding this layer of constant passive exposure.
Okay, so these three rules together, the 5-minute daily touch, the one useful sentence, the phone immersion, they created a completely different learning experience for Kenji.
Totally transformed it.
Yeah.
The biggest shift, according to the source, was emotional and psychological. Because the pressure was off, because the daily tasks were easy, he stopped feeling overwhelmed and tired. He no longer felt like a failure. Learning actually started to feel, well, easy and natural. The friction was gone.
He was working with his energy levels, not against them.
Exactly. And this sustainable, low-friction approach eventually led to his first real test in the wild.
The moment of truth. Tell us about that. How did this new approach play out in a real conversation?
So Kenji's been doing this for several months, building the habit, collecting his useful sentences, getting comfortable with his phone in English. One day he's out in Tokyo, and he sees a tourist, a Canadian woman, who looks completely lost and kind of distressed.
Okay, classic scenario. High stakes for a learner. That initial moment of deciding whether to approach someone, that takes guts.
It does. But Kenji, feeling more confident perhaps because the pressure was lower overall, decided to help. He approached her. And crucially, he didn't panic trying to remember complex grammar. He relied on his simple functional tools.
What did he say? How did she start?
He used basic practical sentences he likely practiced. Things like, hello, can I help you? Are you lost? Where do you want to go? Simple, direct, gets the job done.
And could he understand her?
You could understand some of it, yeah. But then the typical thing happened. The tourist, probably relieved someone was helping, started explaining her situation. But she spoke quite quickly, maybe used some idioms or complex sentences. Kenji started to feel overwhelmed.
Okay, this is the critical point. The point where the old Kenji might have frozen or just given up.
Right, 90% of learners in that situation might just shut down, nod politely, and fail to actually help. But this Kenji had his secret weapon, his magic key.
He used the sentence.
He deployed it perfectly. Could you speak a little slower, please?
Boom. Control regained.
Exactly. That simple sentence wasn't just about politeness, it was a strategic move. It instantly slowed down the interaction, gave him breathing room, reduced his own anxiety, and crucially, kept the conversation going.
Mm.
Because he could now process what she was saying at a manageable pace, he was actually able to understand where she needed to go.
And did he manage to help her?
He did. He successfully gave her directions and helped her find her way. And the source emphasizes this wasn't just practice. This was, for Kenji, his first real conversation in English.
Wow. Not a classroom exercise, but a genuine human interaction where he used his English to solve a real problem.
And that success completely reframed his perspective. His dream of global connection wasn't some distant, impossible goal anymore. It was starting to happen right there because he had the right tools, simple, practical tools, and the confidence to use them.
So the big takeaway for listeners here is what? Success isn't about cramming thousands of words.
It's that practical success comes from consistent application of high-leverage tools, not necessarily from months of intense, painful study. Kenji won that interaction not because he knew the most English overall, but because he knew the right English for that situation, specifically the sentence that kept the conversation alive. It's about strategic application, not just volume.
That's a powerful shift in thinking. Okay, we've seen the problem, the mindset shift, the practical rules, and the real-world success story. Now let's tie it all together. Why does this lazy approach actually work better? What's the fundamental principle underneath it all?
This is where we get to the core logic, the why behind the what. All these methods, the 5-minute rule, the 1-sentence rule, the phone immersion, they work because they all serve one master principle. The ultimate secret, if you will, is simply this: consistency over intensity.
Consistency over intensity. We've touched on it, but let's really dig into that. Why is a little bit every day superior to a big chunk once a week from a brain's perspective? This isn't just about feeling less tired, is it? There's science here.
Oh, absolutely. This goes right down to how our brains learn and remember. Let's compare the two scenarios neurologically. Scenario A, you cram for 2 hours on a Sunday night. Scenario B, you do 5 minutes every single day.
Okay. What happens in the brain during that 2-hour cram session?
Well, you might feel like you're learning a lot in the moment. You're flooding your short-term memory with information, new words, grammar rules. But here's the problem. Short-term memory is, well, short. Without regular reinforcement, that information decays very quickly. It's the classic Ebbinghaus forgetting curve.
So you learn it, then you lose it, basically.
Pretty much. Your brain treats that intense, infrequent session as a sort of anomaly. It hasn't received consistent signals that this information is important for long-term survival or function. So to conserve energy, because brains are very energy conscious, it starts pruning those weak temporary connections. Much of that hard effort is effectively wasted.
Okay, so the big, intense effort doesn't build lasting structures. What about the 5 minutes a day approach?
Now contrast that with a small daily dose. When you touch English for just 5 minutes every day, you're repeatedly activating the same neural pathways.
Okay.
It might be a light activation, but it's consistent. This regular pinging sends a crucial signal to your brain. Hey, this pathway is being used frequently. This must be important.
Like walking the same path in the grass every day? Eventually, a clear trail forms.
That's a perfect analogy. The brain responds to this consistent use by strengthening that pathway. It starts reinforcing the connections. This involves processes like long-term potentiation and, crucially, the laying down of myelin.
Myelin, that's like the insulation on nerve fibers, right?
Exactly. Myelin sheathing speeds up the signal transmission along the nerve axon, making the pathway much faster and more efficient. Consistent repeated practice, even in small doses, encourages myelination. It's like paving that path in the grass, making it a permanent high-speed road.
So the 5-minute daily habit isn't just about psychology. It's literally building better, faster brain wiring for English over time.
Precisely. It optimizes for long-term retention and retrieval. Your brain adapts to the steady, predictable signal. It builds strong, efficient, myelinated pathways. That intense 2-hour session once a week, it's like trying to build the road with a single massive explosion. It doesn't work nearly as well as laying it brick by brick consistently.
This completely reframes the idea of laziness, doesn't it? Kenji feeling tired and not wanting to face the big grammar book wasn't a moral failing. It was like an intuitive guidance system.
You could absolutely see it that way. That feeling of resistance, that desire for ease, it's your brain signaling that the high-intensity, high-friction method is inefficient and unsustainable. Laziness, in this context, isn't the enemy, it's a guide. It pushes you to find a better way, a path of less resistance.
A smarter
The
path.
smarter path. It nudges you away from brute force and towards elegance and efficiency. So, achieving great results with minimum necessary effort isn't truly lazy in the negative sense. It's intelligent, it's efficient, it's sustainable, it's working with your natural energy cycles and brain mechanics, not fighting against them.
The success, then, isn't about how much you suffer for it. It's about the intelligence of your system and the consistency of your application.
Exactly. Language acquisition is a marathon, not a sprint. It's built through the steady accumulation of small, consistent exposures and uses, day after day, until the connections become automatic and strong.
Okay, so let's bring this all home for the listener. If you're that busy person feeling the pressure but lacking the energy for intense study, what's the core message?
Embrace your inner smart, lazy learner. Stop feeling guilty about not having hours to grind. Instead, focus your limited energy on these high-leverage, low-effort strategies.
So, number one, build that tiny unbreakable habit with the 5-minute rule. Just touch English every day, no matter how briefly. Make it too easy to say no.
Number 2. Ditch the overwhelming vocabulary lists. Focus on learning one useful sentence per day, a practical tool you can actually use to manage conversations and learn contextually. Prioritize utility over volume.
And number three, turn your environment into your teacher. Use the smart phone rule, change your phone language, maybe other devices too. Let passive immersion work for you with zero extra time commitment.
It really is a paradigm shift. Stop measuring your progress by hours logged or pages turned. Start measuring it by your daily streak, did you touch English today? And by your growing toolkit of practical, usable sentences. That's sustainable success.
And the source material itself gave us the perfect closing thought, a way for listeners to immediately apply this using just 5 minutes right now.
Yeah, it was a nice little meta commentary. The creators basically said, look, if you want a simple way to practice for 5 minutes right now, just rewatch or re-listen to the key parts of this explanation.
Specifically listening again to those magic key sentences we discussed.
Exactly. Listen to, could you speak a little slower, please? And what do you call this in English?
Mm-hmm.
A few times. Say them out loud. Get comfortable with how they sound and feel. That act of listening and repeating, focusing on just those two high-value items, that is a perfect example of a 5-minute high-leverage practice session.
So listening to this deep dive could literally be the start of your first 5-minute session. That's brilliant.
It brings it full circle. Small, consistent, smart steps.
Consistency over intensity, that's the takeaway. Small steps every single day really do lead to those big results you're looking for. So go ahead, give yourself permission to be a smart, lazy learner. Be efficient. Be consistent.
You got this.
Absolutely. Thanks for tuning in to the Motivated Mind Zone, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.